Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're unboxing the Moto Z4. So this is just announced today after it was leaked. A listing showed up on Amazon. People even bought it at one point. So there weren't a lot of surprises in the announcement. This device has a Snapdragon 675 processor. It's a 2 gigahertz octa-core processor. I don't know if Motorola really does flagships anymore. That's the thing. I have right here, I have the Moto Z2 Force, which was a nice phone for its day 2 years ago. It's got a Snapdragon 835, an AMOLED display. It's fine. But then they did the Moto Z3 last year. It also had a Snapdragon 835. It had an 18:9 display instead of 16:9. But it was pretty much, it had a glass back, so it was pretty much a Z2 in a fancier body. And they sold it for less. And that kind of felt like what they were trying to do, because then they introduced the 5G Moto mod. And that way you kind of had the most inexpensive 5G device by having a lower price device and a Moto mod. So if you're not familiar with Moto mods, there's a bunch of them on my table here. Now, that has been the deal with the Moto Z family since it began. It's got these pins on the back here, and you just snap it on, and it adds some functionality to your device. You snap it on, right? Okay. So there's a bunch of them that I have here. This is it's a gaming controller, and they're adding some new functionality to that, supporting new games like Fortnite. This one's a battery pack. I find this one to actually be the most useful. Because really, these things, like this is a speaker, this is an Alexa speaker, and I wouldn't use these things while I'm on the go. This one's a 360-degree camera, and it's always sticking out of the phone. I wouldn't see myself using it while I'm out, except for this battery pack, which gives you days of battery life, and it's great. So you notice this box is quite big. That's because it actually comes with the 360-degree camera. So if you buy this package that you see right in front of me, it's $499.99, and it comes with the 360-degree camera. If you get it from Verizon, you get it for $240, just the phone, and that's for new activations only. But for $439.99, you could get the device and the 5G Moto mod for new activations on Verizon. And that's kind of impressive, actually, because you're getting a 5G phone for $440. Now, of course, you got to be in Chicago or Minneapolis right now to take advantage of that. And, oh, by the way, Verizon is the only one that sells this phone as far as carriers go. It's also available unlocked. That's the $500 box with the with the 360-degree camera Moto mod, which I'm about to have two of, okay, until I send this back, of course. So let's get this open. They sent me the black one, which they're actually calling Flash Gray. Okay. The white one, if you ask me, the white one's the winner. So Flash Gray. One thing that's great, which I actually quite love about this device, is that you see it has a matte finish there. This one is made out of metal. And it probably should have stayed that way. They started with the Z3 Play and then the Z3. They started making them out of glass. And the Z3 Play was a sexy device. It was dark blue, metallic. And so I don't like it when companies switch to a glass sandwich without adding wireless charging, because you're just making it more fragile. And you're also, it was a fingerprint magnet. So this isn't. It's still made out of glass. It's still, but it's just got a matte finish now. And it's just a lot better. It's still no wireless charging, of course. This device is way too small, way too thin for wireless charging. It's just never going to happen. I think they have a wireless charging Moto mod, so you could use that if you really want it. Let's look at what else is in the box. This is our 360-degree camera Moto mod. And, I reviewed this thing when I reviewed the Z2 Force 2 years ago. It's been out for a while, so I'm not even going to take out of the plastic. So that way, you know, it's one less part that I got to put back in the box when I send it back, you know. If you want to, it's right here. Let's see what else. Probably got a charger in here. It does support turbo power. And it's Motorola's 15-watt turbo power, just as we're used to seeing. USB Type A to Type C adapter. And then, of course, we have our Type A power adapter, 15 watts, like I said. And we're just going to put this away. So 15 watts, that's the same as the Moto G7 and the G7 Power had. I believe previous versions of the Moto Z. The Moto Z used to be a flagship, and now that we've moved to Snapdragon 675, I feel like this is more like the Moto Z4 Play, but it's not that. It's the Moto Z4. So, I mean, it is what it is. We got a 48 megapixel camera on the back, so it's using quad pixels, and you can't turn off the quad pixels, by the way. The idea is that it's a 48 megapixel camera and it's combining 4 pixels into one for better low light. So this 48 megapixel camera is taking it's going to give you a 12 megapixel image. It's using the quad pixel technology on the front as well, which is a 25 megapixel sensor, and that gives you a 6 megapixel image. Now, you can turn that off, though. You can have it give you a 25 megapixel image if you want. So this is also the first Moto Z device that has an in-display fingerprint sensor. So we're just going to set this up. Okay, so the fingerprint sensor is a little high on the screen, but we're just going to start. We're going to set it up. It doesn't seem as fast as other ones that I've used, including this is not too easy to set up, including it'll be the OnePlus 7 Pro, the OnePlus 6T, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, the Huawei P30 Pro. There's a bunch of them now. The Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. So there are a bunch of in-display fingerprint readers. So Motorola is not ahead of the game here, and that's important because the first ones were not very good. Like the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, it was not a good fingerprint sensor, and you knew that if you had a dedicated fingerprint sensor, you'd be a lot better. Now they're a lot better. For example, the OnePlus 7 Pro is awesome. So we're just going to keep clicking through all this stuff. All right, we're in. Now, if we look, this is the OnePlus 7 Pro. I'm in. All right, I just copied my my account over. So that was quick. Let's see if this can do the same. All right. And it's not quite as fast, but it was accurate. It didn't take multiple tries, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. All right. So, like I said, we can look at the camera because the camera was a big part of this announcement. It was the 48 megapixel camera, the quad pixel technology. Oh, that is the worst notification sound that there is. I wish they'd get rid of that. Obviously, I'm going to change it. So yeah, your only option here for the rear camera is quad pixel. Okay, you can only take a 12 megapixel camera. So if you see 48 megapixel and you think that's going to get you some lossless zoom, sorry, not in this case. Over here though, with the front camera, you can turn it off and you can get a 25 megapixel photo. All right. As far as video resolution, it does go up to 4K. Obviously not 4K 60 frames per second. Motorola has never done this, actually. You do get 1080 60, which is nice. So what you need to capture 4K 60 frames per second, you need a Snapdragon 845 or an 855. And they've never made a phone with that. So one thing I'm going to be testing with the Snapdragon 675 is the performance. I wonder if it's up to par with the Z3, and if it's not, that means it's also not up to par with the 2-year-old Z2. And then you don't have a lot of advantages other than the camera. The screen, OLED 1080p, which they've been using OLED for a while, except the Z2 Force was 1440p at 16 by 9. So again, not a whole. I love the design of the body. Again, Moto mods are a reason you would buy this. Other than the phone is super thin, super light, but it almost does feel like half a phone because it's so thin and so flat. Like, it feels like half a phone, like you should be using a mod with it. So I don't know if I have any power left in this, but this is the battery pack. And I guess not, because it's not identified. Oh wait, here it is. Yeah, so yeah, but the mod is empty. So you get a little thing that comes up here on every mod, and it might install some software or something. What's really cool about this one, it makes it feel like a regular phone. It's not too thick or anything. It doesn't fit the same way, which is kind of weird. But what's cool is that it keeps your phone battery at 100% for about a day. It's wild. Because if you're the type of person like me, where I get down to about 40%, I'm like, oh wow, I got to get my phone on the charger soon. I don't like to let it get below that. It just sits at 100% all day, and you get that kind of peace of mind. This fits weird. There has to be a difference in the body size, but you can see that it's not exactly flush here. Very strange. Let's just take a look at this on the Z2 Force, because it's going to fit better. So, yeah, you can see that it's a lot smoother around the edges there than it is with the new Z4. You know, they only promised 3 years of compatibility with these mods, and just for sticking with a similar body size is pretty impressive. Another thing that's great about Motorola devices that I've always loved is Moto. You see that app right there, front and center. It's called Moto. It's been there since the days of the original Moto X, back when Motorola was owned by Google. And it's very different now. We can see what Moto can do. There's Moto Actions, there's Moto Display, and Moto Voice. No, just Moto Actions and Moto Display. Moto Voice, I guess, is officially dead. So that was the original Moto thing, was Moto Voice, and that was one of the coolest things years ago when Google owned Motorola and they announced that Moto X. You would just be able to talk to it, and we didn't have voice assistants in the same way we did. Like, Apple had Siri, Google had Google Now, which was an assistant, not really a voice assistant. It was a different time, is what I'm saying. There weren't Echo speakers. That, there was far field voice mics weren't really a thing yet. So you would be able to just talk to your phone. You would say things like, "Okay, Moto, good night," and it would put your phone on do not disturb until the morning when you said, "Okay, Moto, good morning." And it was really cool, and it was really good. And then, of course, Google came out with Google Assistant, and Moto Voice kind of died. They gave it some new iterations with some different functionality, but I guess it's officially gone now. Moto Actions, lift to unlock, media controls with the volume keys, screenshot editor, that's great. 3-finger screenshot. One-button navigation is kind of interesting because it's kind of weird. I think they've changed it now that Google has added one-button navigation to Android. But it was always weird to me because different companies have one-button navigation, but they're all different. So if you use different phones like I do and you kind of get that muscle memory, it's just not an option. Fast flashlight, quick capture. Most of these have been around. Pick up to silence a ring. Flip for do not disturb. So if you put the phone face down, it'll automatically be on do not disturb, which is kind of cool. All right. And then we can look at Moto Display, which is particularly useful because peak display it's sort of an always on display. It is an ambient display, we'll call it. But if I lift it, sometimes it works if you lift it. It's just showing me the fingerprint thing. But usually it shows you the time. This is not doing it, though. Well, it's not working out for now. That's something I'm going to have to come back to in the review process. Because it knows I'm there because it's giving the fingerprint light. But usually it'll come on for a couple seconds and then it'll go back out. The cool thing about Moto Display, though, and the peak display on the Moto Z is that it's OLED, and it's the only Moto phone that's OLED. They have this feature on the Moto G7 and the Moto G7 Power and the whole Moto G series, but the problem is that those are LCD. So when you have that ambient display, you can see that the whole display is backlit and it's still lit up even when you're just should be seeing the time. So OLED, you actually get pixels turned off, true black. So when only the time is lit up, that's all you're seeing. You can't see where the display ends and the bezel begins, etc. I've always felt like I'm in a kind of an awkward place when it comes to Moto Z devices because I always like them a lot. They're just never that good. And I even feel bad saying that because I do really like them as devices. I think Moto always has a lot of interesting features. The displays are always really nice because they always use OLED. It's just the camera's never that good. Or they never have been. I expect it to be a lot better now with the quad pixel technology and the Sony IMX586 sensor. It's just they're never really competing with the other flagship devices that are out there that are really doing a lot more. So it seems like Motorola just stopped competing. And that's why we have the Snapdragon 675. We're trying to hit a $500 price point now instead of, charging $800 and doing what everyone else is doing. So $500, now we're competing against the Pixel 3a, 3a XL really. And luckily I just reviewed the Pixel 3a XL, so I'll be able to provide some insight on that. So I'm going to have a review on this in probably about a month. I still have to finish up with the OnePlus 7 Pro. So give me some time on that. But until then, stay tuned. It's a lot more stuff, a lot more products unboxed, a lot more products to review. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.